The room fell silent the moment she stepped onto the mat. Dozens of eyes turned, some curious, most mocking. Her skin glistened with sweat under the bright gym lights, but it wasn't exhaustion, it was nerves. For weeks she had come here quietly, sitting at the edge of the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu academy, tying her belt, stretching in the corner, and listening to the whispers. She doesn't belong here. Too old. Too weak. Just a beginner. The harsh laughter of arrogant men echoed in her ears. She had endured it all in silence, but today would be different. Today, she was going to silence them all in less time than it took for a clock to tick through a quarter of a minute. Her name was Amara. At 32 years old, she was no stranger to being underestimated. She had grown up in a neighborhood where dreams were smaller than survival and where standing tall often meant being knocked down harder. Life had taught her resilience, but it had also taught her silence. She was used to being overlooked, the quiet worker in the background, the woman who cleaned tables after others had feasted, the one who trained late at night when the gym was almost empty. No one knew that beneath her calm, unassuming demeanor lay a spirit sharpened by hardship and a body trained through years of secret dedication. Amara's first steps into that gym had been marked by ridicule. She had saved for months to afford the membership, cutting corners on food, on clothing, on everything just to walk through that door. Yet from the very first day, the mocking began. Some of the students whispered, others smirked outright. The men laughed loudest. They saw only her race, her gender, her simplicity, and dismissed her without a second thought. She was a woman in a male-dominated sport, a beginner surrounded by arrogant belts who thought experience equaled superiority. She trained anyway. She trained when her arms ached, when her back screamed, when her spirit felt bruised by every insult. She trained until the mat became more familiar than her own bed, until the grip of her fingers left marks on her calloused palms, until the chokeholds and locks became as natural as breathing. But still, she stayed quiet. She wasn't there to prove anything to them. She was there to prove something to herself. And yet, fate had a way of demanding more. One evening, during open sparring, the laughter reached a boiling point. A tall, broad-shouldered black belt, known for his arrogance as much as his skill, smirked and called her out in front of the class. The crowd jeered, some even cheering him on. They thought it would be a show, a humiliation, a lesson that she should stick to her place. Amara tied her belt tighter, walked forward, and bowed respectfully. Inside, her heart pounded, but her eyes told a different story. They carried years of quiet struggle, unspoken battles, and a determination forged in fire. The match began. For a moment, the champion grinned, dancing around her as if it were a joke. He moved with exaggerated confidence, taunting her. But Amara didn't flinch. She stepped in, controlled, precise, waiting for the opening. And then it came, an arrogant overreach, a careless grab meant to show dominance. In an instant, she shifted. Her hands latched, her legs coiled, and her body moved with the fluid grace of someone who had rehearsed this countless times in silence. The crowd gasped. The black belt stumbled, caught completely off guard. Amara tightened her grip, her technique flawless. His smirk vanished, replaced with a frantic scramble. But it was too late. In just 14 seconds, he was on the ground, her submission locked in, his hand tapping desperately against the mat. The gym fell into stunned silence. The same mouths that had laughed were now open in shock. The same eyes that had rolled in disdain were wide with disbelief. The same people who had dismissed her as nothing were forced to witness her strength. Amara released him calmly, stood tall, and bowed again. She said nothing. She didn't need to. In 14 seconds, she had rewritten the narrative that had been forced upon her. From that day, no one ridiculed her again. No one dared call her weak or out of place. Respect was not handed to her, It was earned in the most undeniable way possible. But more than the respect of others, Amara had won something greater. She had proved to herself, and to every overlooked soul watching, that true strength doesn't shout. It waits, it endures, and then, when the time is right, it speaks louder than any words.